Aloha, everybody. This is Dave Wallace coming to you from Waihoa, Hawaii. Aloha, and welcome to my new version, my new addition to my video collection here on YouTube. Before I get into today's story, I'd like to update you on the progress of my book, The Journey of Our Souls. Right now, the manuscript has been proofread and edited to my satisfaction, and it's in the hands of my layout person who's prepping the book for printing. Um, Second, we've also chosen a very beautiful cover, and it's beautiful. My wife likes it, I like it, and everybody involved in the project likes it. So the progress of the book is rolling along really well. I anticipate the finished version, or at least a proof version, being ready by the middle of June for printing. And we're hoping that the book itself will be printed, begin printing in probably mid-July and be available for distribution in August and September. So stay tuned to this channel, and we'll for more updates on my book, The Journey of Our Souls. Now, this journey that I'm taking you is away from the island of Molokai. It's a different story that I've been sharing with you, moving venues away from my home island to Laie, located on the north shore of Oahu. And my connection to Laie, Oahu, is that my mom was born and raised in Laie, and that's where her parents lived. Okay, and their home was a large home. To us, it was large anyway. It was a four-bedroom home with a large kitchen that opened up to the backyard, and a large living room where there was a piano, a rocking chair, and a lot of musicians used to come by and play music with my grandfather. And the one spot of the house that I really enjoyed was the large covered porch in front of the home that opened up right onto Iosepa Street. And for many people that are passing by my grandpa's house, you'd hear the sound of the auto harp. He'd be sitting out there playing on his auto harp almost all day. So my grandfather and my family loved music. This incident that I'm going to be sharing with you is centered around a very tragic event that occurred in the 1930s in the home. Now, when you walk into my grandfather's house from the porch, you're greeted with three bedrooms. The front bedroom opens up right to the porch. The second bedroom is inside the house, and the third bedroom is located just before you step down into the kitchen area. Well, the tragic event occurred in that third bedroom that involved my auntie and two of my uncles when they were little children. It seems that my grandfather owned a rifle, and he kept the rifle in the closet in that third bedroom. And one day, my auntie and two uncles went into the room, closed the door, and began playing. And my auntie was jumping up and down on the bed, and the boys decided to rummage through the closet, and they found my grandfather's rifle case. They put it on a bed and opened it up and started looking at the rifle and playing with the rifle. And someone came to the bedroom door and opened the door. And as soon as the doorknob started to turn, the boys panicked and grabbed the gun and tried to hide it back in a case. In the process, one of my uncles accidentally pulled the trigger. A shot rang out in the room. a bullet struck my aunt in the head while she was jumping on the bed. It knocked her off the bed, and blood was splattered onto the wall. From what my mom told me is that my aunt managed to live for a short time after being shot, but she passed away in the home. So this bedroom was associated with that accident. As a reminder for that this room was a scene of a horrible accident. You see, the walls of my grandfather's home was made up of kinnick. At least the interior of this room was made out of kinnick. Kinnick is a real soft material, and soft and spongy material that they used to make ceilings. In the old plantation homes, to save money, they used these materials to build the walls. And so it was really easy to make holes in a wall. But being kinnick, this material absorbed the blood and the fats in the blood that was splattered up on the wall. And, although this incident occurred in the 30s, in the 1950s and 60s when I was a child, the stains are still there. And despite the fact we tried to paint it over, we keep on painting, there's dark spots where this blood splatter occurred. So it was a constant reminder for anybody that was in that room to recall what had happened, to my auntie. And living on Molokai, we would spend a lot of summers at my grandparents' home. And guess what room we were given? Yeah, you got it. That room where my auntie was shot. I call it the accident room. The accident room where my auntie was shot. We all knew that. Okay, so it was common knowledge about everything. Well, one summer when my brothers and sisters came to spend time with my grandpa, we were given the room and we were sleeping in there, and we were just piling up on two different beds. You had one bed located to the left and one bed located to the right, and I was sleeping on a bed to the right of the door, and that's where the bed was located when my auntie was shot. And one morning, just before the sun rose, I felt somebody jumping on a bed. And it kind of irritated me. I thought one of my sisters or one of my cousins was playing around with us. And so I woke up and I looked, and there was this little girl jumping on a bed. And she must have been about 8 or 9 years old. And kind of short hair, black hair. And she was jumping and giggling and stuff and enjoying herself. And I say, hey, will you stop that? We're trying to sleep. And she continued jumping and giggling, and then finally asked the question, hey, by the way, who are you? And the little girl says, I'm Mary. I'm Mary. And I go, well, Mary, you can't be doing this. And so we're trying to sleep. And she giggled and disappeared. And that's when I sat up and I go, whoa, that's my auntie. And so the following day, when we were eating breakfast around my grandfather's dinner table, I shared this experience with my grandpa. I didn't want to alarm my sisters, but I kind of like told them, what, I think Auntie came and visited me this morning, jumping on a bed. And he looked at me, and there was a sad look on my grandpa's face, like, yeah, well, he was perfectly aware of what was happening inside that room. And so I looked at my grandpa and I says, well, okay, I just wanted to let you know. And so that was my first encounter with my auntie. I was about 19 years old when that happened. Fast forward several years later, when I was a junior in high school, I moved from Molokai to Honolulu to attend Kahuku High School, which is in a neighboring town to Laie. And that's when I started living with my grandfather. And guess what room I was given? Yeah, the accident room. That became my room during my junior and senior years of high school. And I, um, while living there, I was trying to find ways to, remove the memory of my auntie because several nights after I arrived in Laie and started sleeping inside the room, she appeared and jumping on the bed and replaying this happy little child again. And so I figured out in my own mind, maybe Auntie is jumping on a bed because my bed is exactly where her bed was. So I moved it across on the other side of the room. And I started looking up at the walls, and it always creeped me out, the stains that were there, because I know what caused the stains. And so I started trying to figure out how am I going to disguise this stain on the wall. And eventually, my solution was getting a poster of Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and posting them up and cover the wall. And those two posters were able to cover up the stains on the wall, so I didn't have to continuously be reminded of this incident. And after I did all of these things, Auntie never showed up in the room again. At least not that I was aware. Near the end of my senior year at Kahuku, my mom and dad decided to tear down this old house. And so I remember the day that it occurred. My grandpa was there, my mom was there, and when the tractor started tearing down the home, my grandpa was just heartbroken because this was his home. And I thought it was not a good thing for my grandpa to see this, but he decided to tough it out and try and deal with the situation the best he could. And I felt very sad for him. Anyway, in its place, my parents built two different homes. The first was a three-bedroom home that was located all the way in the back of the property. And this property was about 10,000 square feet. So towards the back of the property, they built the three-bedroom home. And to the front of the property, where my grandpa's home was built, in fact, right on a footprint of my grandparents' home, they decided to build a duplex. And the duplex had two separate units that each had a two-bedroom and a kitchen and a bathroom. And when the duplex was finished and I was able to walk through the two duplexes, as soon as I stepped into the front duplex and I closed my eyes, I could see, wow, I'm in the living room of my grandfather's home. And when I walked through the bedrooms and I walked to the back bedroom of the front unit, the back bedroom to the right, that's nearest the bathroom, and I looked outside of the window, I realized that this bedroom was exactly where the accident room was. And I thought to myself, oh, I wonder what will be happening here. because the exact same position, looking out the window into the backyard of my neighbor, is the same view that I had when I was living in the old house. I remember that. So I told my mom about that, and she just kind of ignored it and said, "Yeah, the old house is gone. The memories attached to the house is gone. Anything negative with the house was gone." So that's what she thought. After we rented out these properties, and after about a year or so of people living in the units, our tenant in the front unit started to talk to me, and she was a single mom, and she started talking to me about a little child named Mary showing up and jumping on their kid's bed in the room that occupied the same space as the accident room. And I says, "Oh, that's my auntie." And when I asked her, "Are the kids afraid?" Says, "No, it's just kind of like irritated because this kid seems to be happy and jumping around and playing around and want to play with them, and they're fine with it. It's just that she can't do all the things that they can do." And so, despite the old house being torn down, despite all of the things that was tied to my auntie was gone, the space was still there. And it's a space that my auntie was attracted to. And she seemed to be locked in this moment. When I tried to make to understand what was happening, why my auntie kept on coming back and replaying this jumping on a bed, I put things together that perhaps it was the feeling of guilt that my grandfather had. He felt really sorry, and really bad about the incident. And by my auntie reliving this happy moment in her life, jumping up and down on a bed right before she was shot, it was probably the happiest time in her life. And she wanted to remind the family that yes, the accident was a tragedy, but she was happy, and she is happy. And that is the message she's trying to communicate to the family and anybody who occupied the space, that she was happy up to the moment until she died. So this is my story of my auntie Mary Leah. That's her name, and she prefers to be called Mary. And mahalo for tuning in this week, and until next week, aloha.